3 Lives, 3 Worlds, Lotus Steps Book 3. One Step for 1,000 Kalpas. Chapter 14. By Tangqi. The Crown Prince made an agreement with His Highness the Third Prince to wait for Bai Qian in Fubo Hall for 3 days. When the 3 days are up, he will accompany Zhu Ti to leave regardless of whether he gets Bai Qian or not. Early in the morning on the 4th day, the prince came to Fulan Hall to look for Lian Song. He said that he had waited for Bai Qian to come last night and had already asked the questions he wanted to ask. He also met Zhu Ti God just now and could set off with her immediately. But the prince added that after he and God Zhu Ti left Chaoyang Valley, they would go to Qingqiu instead of going back to Juchangshan or Gugu, because God Zhu Ti wanted to visit someone in Qingqiu. Zhangze and Qingqiu are thousands of miles apart. It seems that the ancestors and the nine-tailed fox tribe should not have any friendship, but the two can be connected together, which makes Tianbu feel magical. But when the Third Highness heard the prince's words, he was very calm and indifferent. While writing in ink, he asked the prince, "Who is she going to visit in Qingqiu? Emperor Baizhi?" The prince's Taoist ancestor Tishan did not tell him, so he did not know. His Highness the Third Highness did not ask any more questions, stopped writing, and said, "Okay, I'll see you off." In the middle of the month, Yi Hua and Zhu Ti left the palace. When the prince leaves the Bluebird clan, he should be sent off respectfully by the female monarch and his ministers. This is the proper etiquette. However, the prince does not like ostentation, so among the Bluebird clan, only a few important royal families from the Waner, Masi, and Jiyu clans came. Send off. Zhu Ti has been staying in the sedan chair surrounded by a green silk cap. Zhu stepped forward hesitantly and said a few words of farewell to her through the sedan curtain. A few days ago, little Zudi proposed marriage to Zhiyu. After Zhiyu came back to her senses from the trap, she felt that little Zudi was very good-looking. He was so beautiful that he couldn't tell the difference between male and female, and he was interesting. She would never get bored staying with him for the rest of her life. However, there is a very serious problem between them. She has no feelings for little Zudi as a man or woman and has always regarded him as her best friend. Although Xiao Zudi said that she didn't mind her liking His Highness the Crown Prince and even offered to be her backup, she asked herself that no matter how crazy she was, she couldn't do such a thing as letting her best friend be her backup. She hid from Xiao Zudi for a few days, and then she heard that Xiao Zudi was ill. She didn't care about being awkward anymore and immediately went to Fulan Palace to visit, but she couldn't enter the barrier set up by His Highness the Third Prince in the palace, so in the end she had to ask Tianbu to send some medicinal materials in. Today, it was the first time that they had met each other in so many days after Xiao Zudi proposed to her. After a few ordinary words of farewell, Ju could not restrain herself after all. "I have one more thing to say to you," she hesitantly said to Zhu Ti behind the sedan curtain. "That is, young master, what did you say that day? It won't work. You should find another good girl to spend your life with you." "I can't do it." She mustered up her courage and sincerely encouraged Zudi. "You are so good, you will definitely find one soon. As for other good girls, I will always pray to God and wish you will realize your wish as soon as possible." Zhu Ti, who was sitting in the sedan chair, had long forgotten that she had asked Jiyu to marry her. Jiyu's words made her react for a long time. After she came to her senses, she was silent for a while, taking the blame for her young and ignorant self. She coughed, lowered her voice and replied in a little Zudi voice, "Okay, I understand. I'll try to find other girls." Jiyu breathed a sigh of relief. The conversation between Jiyu and Zhu Ti was almost a whisper, and others may not have heard it. For example, Nanzi beside Waner did not hear it, but this did not prevent Nanzi from feeling disgusted. Nanzi felt that this young master was really spoiled by His Highness. The princess of the clan came up to say goodbye to him, but he was still sitting firmly in the sedan chair without even coming out to greet him. How irritating. Wana actually felt that the young master was being arrogant by not showing up, but she didn't take it to heart. After all, the prince was going to take him away. He was about to leave, but the Third Highness was kept by him, so that was fine. Estimating that it was already 100 miles away from Chaoyang Valley, Zudi abandoned the sedan chair and rode on the clouds with the prince and others. The wind in front of me was a bit cool, and the cool breeze made me sober. Zhuti stood on top of the clouds, thinking about what Lian Song had said to her when she just left Chaoyang Valley, and she felt a little lost. At that time, she said goodbye to Zhuyu. After Zhuyu retreated, Wanner, on behalf of the Bluebird royal family, said a few words to send the prince off, and they planned to set off. Unexpectedly, Lian Song suddenly opened the sedan curtain, leaned into the sedan, sat opposite her, and handed her a long box. She opened the box in confusion, only to see a roll of dazzling dark, patterned silk cloth placed in the box. Lian Song pointed with a fan, tapped on the silk cloth, and said to her, "Emperor Baiji of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan and Queen Ningxiang, Queen Fox, have a deep love for each other. Queen Fox loves fabrics and likes to collect silk fabrics. This heavy lotus silk horse is one of a kind among the 8 wild animals. I gave it to Emperor Baiji as a greeting gift. He will definitely like it." He said these words in a calm manner, but it was as if he had thrown a pebble into Zhu Tiai's heart lake. It really surprised her. "You know that the person I am looking for is Baiji?" she asked. He lowered his eyes, but smiled, and asked instead of answering, "Ayu, when you were ugly last night, you left full-on hall, right?" Her pupils shrank slightly. She thought he wouldn't know. Logically speaking, he really shouldn't know, but he did. At that time, I thought, he suddenly approached her, and the fragrance of Baiqinan enveloped her like a net. "You should be going to Fubo Palace," he said softly. The sound rang in her ears. She instinctively held her breath and quietly stepped back, causing her back to press against the car wall and her head to raise slightly. Fortunately, his breath finally stopped touching her ears, and the two of them could barely maintain a distance of less than half an arm's length. He looked at her, as if he didn't notice her retreat, nor her slightly stiff body movements. He continued the topic so close to her as if nothing happened. "When you are ugly, late at night, you are in a hurry. You went to Fubo Hall not for Yihua, but of course, just to see Bai Qian. But you have no friendship with the supreme immortal Bai Qian, so you wouldn't be unconvinced when you heard that she is the most beautiful woman among the gods today. Let's go and compete with her." At this point, there was a bit of joking in his words, and he paused. "When you see her, you must have other things that involve other people. And the whole of Qingqiu is worthy of your honor." The only ones who stooped down to inquire were a fox emperor and a fox queen. However, Qingqiu has always been the fox emperor's chief officer, so I think the person you told me you were looking for that day should be Baiji, the fox emperor. She finally got used to the distance between the two of them. When he listened to him teasing her, she raised her eyes and glared at him. When he listened to him scratching his head, she deduced that the person she was looking for was Baiji, and she thought that he was really difficult to deal with. Once she went to Fubo Palace, he could deduce that her intention was to stop for nothing. If this energy of seeing thousands of miles and knowing the autumn leaves of fallen leaves was used on others, she would only like him to be smart, but if he could use it on himself, it would make him miserable. She was a little annoyed and couldn't help but snorted. "Maybe I went to Fubo Palace just to find Bai Qian's beauty. Because I lost to her, I decided to go to Qingqiu to challenge her. It has nothing to do with anyone else." He didn't refute her, just glanced at her and asked her, "Really?" She felt that of course he should know that she was talking nonsense, but he looked very serious when he asked her really. She couldn't figure out whether he was too smart and stupid to believe her nonsense for a moment. She was about to continue talking nonsense, but she heard him say, "You competed with Bai Qian for beauty, but you lost. It's because you only invited Yuhua will be the judge, right? Next time you want to compete with someone, remember to invite me to be the judge. This way you can at least draw a tie with the opponent and won't lose to them no matter what." She was stunned for a long time before she realized what he meant. "So you think?" He obviously understood what she meant and raised his eyebrows at her. "Yes, of course I think you are the most beautiful. What else?" "Why don't you speak?" he asked her. He looked closer at her. "If you don't speak, then you should blush." How come you don't speak or blush? The reason why she didn't blush was, of course, because she tried her best to suppress herself, and she was almost sure that he just wanted to see her embarrassed. For a moment, she was more angry than embarrassed, and couldn't help but push him. It's business. It's all said and done. Why aren't you leaving yet? But it didn't push him. He was still sitting next to her, placed the mysterious fan on the long box in her arms, and smiled. Of course it's because the business hasn't been finished yet. When she raised her head curiously, he continued, I know that you went to see Emperor Baiji because of the power of the Western Emperor's blade in your body. Although I don't know the specific reason why you went to him. What to do, of course, you don't want me to ask, and I won't ask. I just hope your trip goes well and you get what you want, and besides, take care of yourself. They were gentle, caring, and touching words, and she couldn't help but raise her eyes to look into his. No matter how many times you look at those eyes, they are always beautiful, like the clearest amber. At this time, her reflection was deliberately collected and locked in, solidified and frozen. None of them moved, and time seemed to stand still at this moment. Then he suddenly raised his hand and touched her hair. She couldn't help but tremble. He must have felt it. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, as if he was laughing at her. She should have backed away, but seeing his smile, she held back. He just wanted to see her flustered and lost her composure, but she wouldn't let him. His fingers fell on her hair and did nothing else, as if they were holding the hairpin for her. She felt right, because he explained it to her in the same way. The hosta is crooked. She breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that it was lucky that she didn't hide. Otherwise, she would have been laughed at by him again. The young master of Tianjuan's family has a reputation for being romantic, so it's understandable that he behaves more indulgently. This is probably how he gets along with the girls. She was a little uncomfortable with it at first, but it seems to be fine now. He got very close to her, carefully repinned her hairpin, and then told her to take good care of herself. Then he opened the sedan curtain and left. She was left sitting in the sedan chair holding the long box. After he left for a while, she realized that the Chonglian Ling in the box must not be the one he carried with him. Of course, he couldn't carry a roll of silk cloth with him. That could only be because he suggested that she was going to visit Qingqiu and return to Tiangong or Huiyahai to get it specially for her last night. Whether it was because of the bone-gnawing mantra or something else, he treated her really well. What else can be done? She sighed and thought, even if he was sometimes evil-minded and acted unruly, seeing as how well he treated her, she could only tolerate him. In fact, to be fair, the temperament of this young water god is not very good. Sometimes he is warm, sometimes he is cold, like water, it is impermanent and changeable, and many times he is very arbitrary. Fortunately, most of the things he did as he pleased were of no importance. In matters of business and major matters, he has always been cautious, thoughtful, and attentive. Thinking of this, she suddenly understood why he had such a temperament, which seemed to have nothing to do with the words long-sleeved and good at dancing, but on the contrary, he was the most popular god among the 8 wastes. Adapting measures to people's conditions, times, and events, others cannot distinguish the boundaries, but the water god seems to be born with this talent. Besides, he's really smart. She didn't know what his magic power was, but judging from his mastery of the barrier, he should be very good. To be honest, even at this moment, walking in the air, above the clouds, and being blown by the refreshing cool wind for so long, she didn't really want to understand why Liansong knew that she went to Fubo Palace last night. After she restored the prince's memory that day, she left him an awakening talisman, which could restrain Bai Qian's drowsiness. Once the prince uses the talisman, she will feel something. This is why she was able to rush to Fubo Palace in time when Bai Qian arrived last night. It is not difficult for her to pass through the barrier between Lian and Song Dynasty silently. Although the God of Light's attack power is average and she is probably the most ineffective in fighting among all the ancient gods, she is very good at healing and time-space related spells. No one in the world can match her. Due to his physical constitution, the light god can see most of the spatial array. as nothing can come and go freely and is difficult to detect by those who set up the array. The restraining barrier established by Liansong was also a type of space array. So Zhu Ti couldn't understand why Liansong knew that she had left the barrier last night. After thinking about it, it seems that it can only be explained by the reason that his control over the barrier he set is actually far beyond his age. The bloodline of Tianjuan's family is really good. After coming to this conclusion, Zhu Ti couldn't help but sigh. The eldest grandson is a magic genius, as is the youngest son. It is really rare and enviable for a family to have two geniuses. Across a hilltop with lush vegetation, the fox cave of the Bai family in Qingqiu can be seen in the distance. After returning to the fox cave in the middle of the night last night, Migu didn't bother to rest. He arranged a lot of things inside and outside the cave. This morning he went to the cave entrance to look up several times, waiting for the arrival of God Zhu Ti and the prince of the Celestial clan. It was a rare visitor to the fox cave, and Migu was very excited, but he felt that his aunt seemed a little uncomfortable. He tentatively asked Bai Qian, who was sitting aside in silence for a long time, "Aunt, don't you like the visit of God Zhu Ti and His Highness the Crown Prince?" Bai Qian raised her eyelids and glanced at him. "I like God Zhu Ti very much. Although she was wearing a veil when we met last night and couldn't see her features clearly, we can tell from her figure and posture that she is an outstanding beauty." Outstanding. Who doesn't like beauty? Migu chewed on these words and heard the meaning behind them. "My aunt likes it very much that Zhu Ti is here as a guest." The implication is, "Your Highness the Crown Prince is here as a guest, but your aunt doesn't like it anymore?" Migu coughed and said a good word for the prince. "Aunt, His Royal Highness is also an outstanding beauty." Bai Qian fell silent. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Speaking of which, Lord Yehua is a prince of the Celestial clan, and he should be very busy. So, after escorting God Zhu Ti here, he should return to the Nine Heavens soon, right?" Listening to Bai Qian's hopeful tone, Migu knew what answer she wanted to hear from him. But Migu thought that he was not a sycophant, but had established himself in Qingqiu with sincerity, so he sincerely poured cold water on Bai Qian. "That shouldn't happen. Aunt, have you forgotten that you were with the prince last night? What did His Highness say, and what did His Highness say in reply to you?" Being reminded like this, Bai Qian immediately wilted. After a while, she raised her hand and rubbed her forehead in despair. "Hey, I have a headache. Last night. If she had known this would happen, she would never have gone to the Blue Bird clan again last night." Bai Qian thought. It's not like she has any opinion about the prince. It was one thing for her to save this young prince, who was 90,000 years younger than her, but it was another thing to welcome him to Qingqiu as a guest in the name of her fiancé and spend a long time with her. She was actually very satisfied with the previous situation in which the two of them knew that the other was a person, but neither of them were interested in each other and felt that there was no need to get acquainted with each other. There's nothing wrong with the prince, she just can't regard him as her fiancé. Without him, he is too young. Although he looked mature and a mighty black dragon, when she thought that he had just grown up and was only 30,000 years old, she could only think that he was still a cub. Alas, he is still a bit difficult to deal with. She just had good intentions last night, thinking to check his situation one last time. If he was safe, she would be able to retire. If there were still some shortcomings, she would give him the remaining elixir, and she would do her best. This time when she entered Lutai Palace, she was more cautious than in the past. Not only did she choose Cho time, a time when most people were already asleep, but she also made the sleeping technique more severe, making her almost suffocate. She first let Migu enter the prince's main palace. Migu checked the prince's breathing and his pulse, and felt that he was indeed asleep, so he gave her a coded signal to let her in. Unexpectedly, she went to his bedside, and as soon as she put her hand on his pulse, the prince, who was supposed to be sleeping without knowing what was going on, suddenly held her arm. Then the room suddenly lit up. She was confused at the time. The prince sat up, leaned against the bed, looked at her with his dark eyes, and spoke to her calmly. "I thought you weren't coming." She was even more confused, because it stands to reason that the prince's memory has been erased by her. A prince who has lost his memory should naturally not say such things when he sees her. He should ask, "Who are you?" Her arm was still in his hand. She glanced at her arm held by him, then at him, and couldn't help but frown. That shouldn't be the case. The young prince revealed what she was thinking from just these 3 words. There was a fleeting smile in his eyes, but he still held her arm firmly. "Someone helped me restore my memory. I remembered everything." Immortal by Qian. He looked at her. "From the time you rescued me at the foot of Kongsang Mountain to the time you came to treat my injuries several nights in a row, I have remembered all these things." After saying these words, he said he let go of her hand, but still looked at her momentarily, paying attention to her expression. She finally came out of her confusion and thought, "Oh, that means she remembered everything and was waiting here for me on purpose." She has a happy-go-lucky personality and can accept anything and do anything. Although she doesn't really want the young prince to think of all this, there are benefits to remembering it. She took out the book she had shown the prince in the cave from her sleeve, touched the book cover and coughed. "Oh, it's good to think about it. It's a good thing to think about it." She handed the book a few inches over, asked him, "Does this booklet look familiar to you?" He glanced at the prince and said, "I added a few more medicines to it, which you have been using these past few days." He looked at the prince again and said, "This you promised me before that you would return the medicinal materials and treasures in this booklet to me. You should still remember them, right?" The prince took the book and lowered his eyes as if a little disappointed. Is this the only thing the immortal wants to say? She was stunned for a moment. Apart from this, what else could she say? Could it be that he wanted to default on the bill? She narrowed her eyes slightly and said, "Mr. Yihua, you don't want to default on your debt, do you?" The prince smiled lightly. "Of course not. After returning to the heavenly palace, I will collect the records in the book for the immortal." The immortal does not need to worry. It was a neat and refreshing statement. The prince agreed to do this, which made her very happy, because she had never expected such a good thing to happen before coming. The prince is quite a good person, she thought as she took out a few medicine bottles from her sleeves and handed them to him. "Then you should keep these medicines. You seem to be in good health, but these medicines have the power to soothe the soul. Use it. Even if you are well, it will be good to take it for half a month and a month." After thinking for a while, he asked him again, "Do you have a pen? I will write down how to use it for you." She consciously said a kind and caring word, but the prince did not answer her. He lowered his eyes slightly and looked at the medicine bottle in his hand, seeming to be thinking about something. When she urged him to write again in confusion, he spoke and said something that she didn't quite understand. He said, "Shengxian, you don't seem to be bored with me. You have never been bored with me, right?" She found this question strange. Of course, she had never been tired of him. If she was tired of him, why would she save him? Was she full enough to hold on? "I'm not bored with you," she answered him, really curious. "Do you think I'm bored with you? But why should I be bored with you?" The prince moved his eyes from the medicine bottle to her face. "Then I have a question for you." She nodded. "You ask." The prince looked at her deeply. "Since you are not tired of me, why do you always want to break off the engagement with me?" She was stunned for a moment. Break off the engagement? Who said I want to break off the engagement? The prince was also stunned. After a while, he said with some uncertainty, "But isn't that what you all say in Dongwang?" She really didn't know about this, so she couldn't help but look back at Migu, who was standing quietly behind her. Migu seemed to be caught up in some memories. She coughed. Migu woke up and received her eyes. He immediately stepped forward and leaned over to talk to her. "I remember, Aunt, it was the hill next door. Xiaojuin's brother spread this rumor because he admired you and intended to instigate a marriage between you and His Highness the Crown Prince. You were in retreat at that time, so you never heard of it." At this point, he scratched his head, but the fourth uncle had already dealt with the matter that day, so how could there be rumors spreading to the Celestial clan? The fourth uncle mentioned by Migu refers to her fourth brother Baizhen. A bad premonition arose in her heart, and she asked Migu, "Can I ask fourth brother how he handled this matter that day?" Migu made a gesture of splitting a watermelon with his bare hands. "My fourth uncle gave Xiaojuin and her brother a good beating. She asked, "Is it over?" Migu replied, "It's over." She held her forehead and asked again, "What about the rumors? Didn't you stop them?" Migu said, "I also asked my fourth uncle that day if I needed to publish an article to clarify the rumors, but my fourth uncle said, rumors will be miscarried as they circulate, so don't worry about them, just don't worry about them." She was silent for a moment and looked at the prince. "That's what happened." Then she said, "I didn't know anything about it from beginning to end, and I never said I wanted to break off the engagement with you." This time, the prince immediately replied to her, "Well, I understand. Breaking off the engagement was a misunderstanding." He pursed his lips, and a smile appeared on his lips. She didn't pay much attention to it, and it wasn't very real. At this time, she was thinking about other things and had no time to pay attention to anything else. She was thinking that since the topic of marriage had been brought up by accident, it was actually a good opportunity to explain the illicit marriage between the two. After making up her mind, she coughed and said, "Well, this is indeed a misunderstanding. Your second uncle broke off the engagement that day, making me a laughingstock. In order to help me save face, your grandfather gave you to me. Although it's a bit confusing, but it did help me out." She paused, glanced at his expression, and found that he didn't look strange, so she continued, "As for me, for the sake of Qingqiu's face, I won't do anything until I have to. I will not break off the engagement with you. But I know that you and I are not a good match." When she mentioned the word, "a good match," she blushed rarely, feeling that what she was talking about to a bastard was simply too old. She respected her, but she had to say it, so she coughed again, covering up her discomfort, and continued speaking bravely, "You are a bastard. No, you are a child." The prince interrupted her, "I'm not a child." The prince's expression was still the same, but his voice was cold. When she thought about how she hated being called a child even when she was 30,000 years old and just coming of age, she changed her tune in a good-natured way. "Well, you're a handsome young man, and you are paired with me. Naturally, I have wronged you." At this point, she sighed and told the lies sincerely. "Logically speaking, you would not want to marry me early, but now I have a life-saving grace for you. For this life-saving grace, you say no, you must have planned to wrong yourself, but this is what I don't want, so I think it's good that you forgot everything before. At least you don't have to make things so complicated." After laying the groundwork for a long time, she felt that what she really wanted to say was elicited at this time, and the prince should be able to understand and agree with it. She cleared her throat and said, "I will save you, but I just saved you casually. In fact, I don't think it is. What a great favor, so you don't need to take it to heart. If you return the medicinal materials to me, we will be even. Since it is not a big deal, then I don't think you need to report it to Lord Tian. It should be noted that if Lord Tian knows this, my wedding date is probably around the corner. This is unfair to you, and I don't hope so. I still hope that everything will go on as naturally and smoothly as I didn't save you, and that our marriage will at least be delayed." No, I can at least wait until you are awarded the Princess Seal, so that I won't feel like I owe you too much. Besides, after receiving the Princess Seal, and then starting a family, starting a career first and then starting a family is a good idea. Do you think this is true? Translating this fallacy, it actually means that she doesn't want to get too involved with the prince, nor does she want to marry him as soon as possible. She only hopes that after this incident, they can go back to their respective places, just like before. Just these three meanings. She admired herself for being able to express these three meanings so gracefully and beautifully, and she almost applauded herself. But the prince didn't know how to listen. After hearing this, the prince was quiet for a moment, raised his eyes, and replied to her calmly. "I understand. The immortal hopes that we can develop a good relationship with the immortal before we get married. Then when I go back to Jichangshan to meet Tianjun, and after I report to Tianjun, I will come to Qingqiu to stay for a while and cultivate a relationship with the immortal." She was dumbfounded at the time and said quickly, "I'm not." But before she could finish her words, there were footsteps outside the hall. Soon, A slim beauty wearing a power fence opened the bead curtain and appeared at the door of the inner room. The beauty spoke with a clear voice and smiled. "Why do I have to go back to the ninth heaven to report to the Heavenly Lord? I can't just write a letter. Didn't your third uncle ask you to protect me to where I want to go?" "Where I want to go? This is the country of Qingqiu." The woman looked at her and said, "Sir Bai Qian, I wonder if your father is in Qingqiu these days?" This is what happened last night. Under the old camphor tree at the entrance of the fox cave, Bai Qian rubbed his forehead and couldn't help complaining that he had a headache again. Migu also found it difficult to handle, so he had to try his best to comfort her. It's a blessing, not a curse. It's a disaster that can't be avoided. Bai Qian looked at him for a while. "You're so good at talking." Migu had a good temper and didn't take it seriously, but he kindly advised his aunt, "Aunt, for the sake of now, you can only pay more attention in the future and don't rely on your cleverness to talk nonsense in front of His Royal Highness." "Aunt, clever?" Auntie threw the teacup in her hand at his head, and Migu quickly hid behind him. A few auspicious clouds floated from the horizon, and the prince and his party had arrived. End of chapter 14, book 3.